video, but it's going to be an extended lanyard. So I plan to utilize the GoPro on the side of my car with the suction mount or something, with this the GoPro buckle and some type of suction mount that would attach to the side of the car or on the window. The tether I did, it comes off the thumb screw with a hole, and then from there I got this S-beaner hook with the locking mechanism here, and then I got a piece of heat shrink to terminate this end, and it allows it to fully rotate without any hang-ups. So I could utilize that feature when vlogging, or if you have it mounted in a car, you could turn it towards you, you could turn it away from you, facing the road, whatever you want. And it's short, so it's not going to get in the way, get tangled up in your other camera gear. But what I want to do is, after I'm done with this, I usually unlatch it here. So I unlatch it, and then I'll take it and I'll latch it to this clip up here. So I'll lock it in there and it's out of the way. So I could pinch these off and take off the GoPro and completely remove the lanyard from my buckle system if I didn't need it. But what I want to do today is add a lanyard or a leash to this thumb screw, where I could extend the leash, so that way I could put this at the bottom of my door, get some good rolling shots of other cars, but also be able to get rid of it when I didn't need it. But since I like the small one, I always keep the small one on there, so that's why it's on this end of the thumb screw. So I don't want to take all the credit for this. I did see the lanyard or the leash that I'm going to show you right now on another YouTube channel, but I had some issues with it, and that's the reason why I went with this style where it's terminated on the thumb screw itself, because of the reasons I'm going to show you. So to make this leash work, what you're going to need is the 95 paracord again, some heat shrink, a electrical connector, and this one's a blue one, so it has a smaller diameter inside. Make sure that yours, because they come in a whole bunch of different size loops, make sure yours will fit a 1/4-20 bolt through it. And the reason for that is because it's going to be sandwiched in between your thumb screw. But when you don't want it, you take off your thumb screw and then you could take off your leash. So it's going to be placed right in there, and then when you need it, you put it in there, you run the longer extension. When you don't need it, you could unscrew the thumb screw and take this out, and then pack it away in your backpack or whatever you have. The reason why I don't use this on my GoPro right now with the short leash is because this piece here acts as a washer. So when it slides in there in between the thumb screw and the face of your buckle, it has a potential to rotate, and that could loosen up your thumb screw. And so I just want to use this in an emergency, or in this case rolling shots, where I'm least likely to use it as often, whereas this I'm going to use it all the time. And the one on my waterproof setup, I'm going to be using that a lot more than I do on the side of my car with some rolling shots. So I mean, this is like just so I could stick in there and get things done, have that extra peace of mind, and get some good footage. So what you also will need is this key ring, and you want a heavy duty one, because once you put this rope into the end of here, you're going to want to crimp it, terminate it, and heat shrink over it. But you also want this large enough to fish this through, so that way you could put this around your headrest or something. So you would fish your lanyard around your headrest, and then fish this through this eye hole, and then pull on it, and then attach this to your GoPro so it's terminated at one end. You could also use a carabiner or something where you could just clip it on real fast. But since you don't know what you're going to be locking this onto, I figured having a ring like this will be better, because it'll allow for different size posts or different things you could leash this around without having to have a carabiner that's only one size and you got to deal with it. Or I might be using the carabiner and then just fish it through the carabiner, but I mean the carabiner will be a lot bigger than this. This takes up less room. So you're going to also need your lighter, so that way you could terminate the ends and use it with the heat shrink, and then some dikes to clip the paracord. Okay, so enough talking, let's just get into it and see how it turns out. Okay, so what you got here is your lanyard, right? And now you could fish it through something like that, pull it through, and then you could have it terminate against something, and get a little bit of the heat shrink on my finger, or the paracord, because I touched it, so be careful because it'll fuse to your finger and it hurts if it's hot still. It's like melting plastic to your hand. So as you can see, it's terminated, and then this would go on your GoPro. Remember not to make this thing too long if you're gonna hang it out your car, to try to keep your GoPro latched onto your car, because if it's too long, and say I connect this to my headrest and throw it outside the car, connect it with the suction cup. This could actually potentially hit the floor when your GoPro lets go. It could hang really low, it could scrape on the floor, or if it does decide to pop off, you want it to hang on the side of the door. Hopefully it doesn't scratch it, and keep your GoPro from hitting the actual pavement. But on all vehicles, you'll notice, okay, say this is the side of the car, right? Here's your window. All cars usually have a some type of curvature on the door. So try to make the paracord long enough to go from, say, your seat headrest all the way down to past the curvature. So that way if it does fall, it kind of hangs in this pocket in between here, instead of making it right on where the curvature of your door starts, because if it does let go, then the rope will hang and it'll bang into your door and it could scratch it. So make sure it's a little bit lower than that curvature, and then it would have some leeway there. And then also you can the reason for having paracord is so that way it doesn't scratch your paint on your vehicle, on the side of your vehicle, or wherever you have it tied off onto. So that's the reason also why you want to use paracord. Okay, so let's hook up, let's hook this up. So I'll rotate the camera to face you. So what we want to do is take up the thumb screw. And the reason for this thumb screw and the lanyard being at the end, if you watch my other video, you'll see why. And I have a reason for everything I do here. Because as we were talking about in the video, for instance, say this thing falls, right? The weight of the GoPro is on top. So if this thing falls, it's going to want to hang like this, you know. So if it's right here and it falls, it's going to want to pull back this way and still tighten your thing. But if your lanyard is back here and it falls, it's going to want to rotate and loosen up. So keep that in mind when you're designing your leashes or whatever you decide to do when customizing stuff. But okay, so what we have is we have the leash that we made, right? So we take the end that we made, put the thumb screw in between there, and then put it back in, tighten it up. So what you could have done was take two rings, right? So two smaller ones like this, and left your leash here, and then just clipped it on like that, and then you would have had a good leash to connect to your stuff. The reason why I didn't do this was because I don't want this rattling around on the side of my door or on my window, hanging out the side of the car. So that's why I chose to do it this way. And like I said, I'm not the originator of using this terminal here on a leash. But the guy that on YouTube, I'm sure you can find his video. I don't remember what his channel's name is, or else I would have gave him a shout out, because it was pretty clean the way he did it. But he used a carabiner, and I'm using this ring right here. But what you can do is, as you can see, we have the leash, right? We'll get this one out of the way. So put this back up in our little locked up zone. And then now what I'm going to do is show you around it. So it's locked into there, right? The reason why I also don't like this setup, and it's kind of sketchy, is when you turn this thumb screw, this could have a potential to move back and forth. And not only that, it's going to want to pull this way. So if it pulls this way, remember I was telling you earlier about fatiguing that joint right there? It could potentially fatigue it, you know, from you moving it back and forth and breaking there anyway. So it's right there, and then we have it set up right there, so that way it hangs. and I'm gonna end up bending this back, but I want to do it without it mounted there, so that way I don't fatigue it as harshly. So set the camera back down, and then what you can do instead of fishing this in through here is, for demonstration purposes, if you had something that you could just throw this over. In this case, I'll use my lighter and then pull it through. So picture this as your seat post, or I mean your headrest post, and you fished it through here first, and then you connected it there, because your headrest doesn't have an end where you could just slide it over like I did here. But for the demonstration, I'll show you. And then as you can see, it's latched on like this, and then this cord runs all the way to the end of here, and then latches down. So let's get a far away shot of that. So this is your headrest, it's latched on, and it's latched on there. And then if your GoPro ever fell, it'll hold it like that. But as you know, it's going to be a lot more violent when it falls, so you want to pre-bend this. So make sure this is pre-bent straight up, and that'll complete that. So that's going to complete this tutorial. If it was helpful, you know what to do. Hit that thumbs up, it's greatly appreciated. If you want to see content like this and other content I'll be posting, definitely hit that subscribe button. I greatly appreciate that as well. Until next time, see you in the next